Welcome to Impact OC, the only program showcasing the people and organizations shaping Orange County. With your host, Don Camber.
Hello, live from the OC Talk Radio studios at UCI's Beal Applied Innovation Center. I'm OC Talk Radio Public Affairs Director Don Camber with another great guest positively impacting our community. Today I welcome FentanylSolution.org CEO and President Janice M. Celeste. The Newport Beach-based nonprofit's mission is to combat the illicit fentanyl crisis. In Orange County, fentanyl is the #1 killer of teens. Thank you, Janice, for being on Impact OC.
Well, thank you for having me.
Janice, please explain what fentanyl is and why it's a major public health issue.
Right. Fentanyl is a synthetic opioid, and it has taken over the black market. It is the #1 killer of 18 to 45-year-olds in the United States right now. In California, we lose about 117 people each week. In the United States, we lose about 250 people a day. And most of that has to do with fentanyl overdoses. It's opioids all lumped in together, but about 85% of those numbers are fentanyl related.
What is it made of?
Well, that's a good thing. It's a compound, complex type of drug that they make, and the cartel they're very sophisticated about keeping the formula changing, so that way they can try to circumvent laws, and so they will make different types of fentanyl. So it depends.
Is it a liquid or a powder?
It comes in powder form, but they also will press it into pills that look like legit pharmaceuticals, but it will have no medication in it most of the time. It doesn't even pay the cartel to put real medicine in these pills that look like Percocets, that look like Oxycontin, that look like Xanax and Adderall. They'll press them the exact shape, similar color, or exact color. And even the DEA agents who have been doing this for 30 years cannot tell the difference between the real pill and a fake pill until they test it.
Is there any legitimate use for it?
For fentanyl, yes. In hospitals, it started as a painkiller for cancer patients, and you can get it in different ways, but mostly people wear fentanyl patches to manage their pain.
So how did it become illicit in the United States?
Well, it became illicit when it went outside of the hospital setting into the cartel setting in the black market with drug dealers selling different pills. They found out that they can make 10 times more money if they can get people addicted to it so that they'll come back on a regular basis. And if you happen to die from it, you're just a casualty. They don't really care. There's a revolving door, and the internet is a cash cow for most drug dealers today.
Well, share stories of illicit fentanyl use.
Well, on our board, one of the youngest victims, Alexander Neville, his mom, goes around talking about his story a lot. Braces, bubble gum type of kid, red hair, just cute 14-year-old. And he went to his mom and told her that he had been taking these pills for about 10 days and that he doesn't know why they have a grip on him and he can't stop taking them. And he thought they were oxys, right? But no, they were laced with fentanyl. She had not heard of fentanyl at that time. When he came to her, she did what every good mom would do. She's an OC mom. And she went and called the rehab. They said they'll call her back tomorrow. They went to bed as normal. He didn't wake up. And that's because she didn't know about fentanyl. Had she known, she would have reacted differently. She would have searched his room, told him, don't take any more. Whatever you have, give to me right now. But she didn't know. She didn't even think of those things. So he took the last one, probably thinking, I'm going to rehab, so I'll take this last one, and that's it. But that last one was fatal. And we know from the DEA's office that 6 out of 10 pills on the black market right now are potentially lethal. And he took the last one and never woke up.
How are kids getting it?
Oh, okay. Some of you guys are going to be shocked about this. I even got goosebumps if you could see. So your child can get a pill in your house in less than the time it takes to order a pizza, less than an hour. So what happens is usually a drug dealer will stalk them on Instagram, and then Once they find a way, they'll keep poking and poking, peer pressure, and your child might say something like, "Oh, I'm starting a new school tomorrow. I'm a little bit nervous." They'll say, "Oh, I have something for that. Let me send it to your house." Or they'll drive it to the house, or they'll use a service, a food service. I won't say the names, but popular food services that you use to order fast food all the time. And they'll drop off. All they know is they're picking up a package and dropping it off from point A to point B. They don't know what's in it. And you'll think your kid's getting food from wherever, and they'll have a pill instead, and they'll take that. That's what they'll take, and won't know until you find them in the morning. But the transactions will take place on like Snapchat, for instance, because Snapchat, the transaction goes away in 24 hours. So they'll tell them, "Oh, go over to Snapchat to pay for it from Instagram." They'll do that. And then by the time you realize what happened to your child, that transaction has disappeared.
So the kids are getting it just by ordering regular food or getting it from their friends.
The same way, yeah, or from friends. That's a popular way. A lot of the parents who we talk to that have lost their children have almost all said that like they trusted a friend, and the friend doesn't know where the other person got it from or how. Basically, if you're not getting medication from your doctor in a legitimate pharmacy here in the United States, you're likely dealing with fentanyl. Even the brick and mortar pharmacies across the border in Mexico have been infiltrated by the cartel. So do not trust those either. Just because they have medications at a reduced rate of like 80% cheaper, you go down there, you're likely getting drugs that are laced as well.
How does fentanylsolution.org help?
Well, our mission is to educate, advocate, and bring awareness, just like we're doing here today. And we do different types of events to bring the community together so we can talk about it. Just like our board member who didn't know about fentanyl, that's how you are vulnerable. So people who think that this cannot happen to them are the most vulnerable for it to happen to. So our goal is to talk to as many people as possible. We have what we call lunch and learns. We do town halls. We go out and speak. We are an official naloxone distribution center for Narcan. So people can come and get free Narcan from our offices between certain hours. We do a Narcan training so that people know how to use it in case of an overdose. And as much as we can do to get the word out, we have on October 7th in Calabasas, and we're going to be doing one here in Orange County soon too, a Fight Fentanyl event at a boxing gym. No real boxing will take place, but it's good exercise. So we bring the community together to talk about fentanyl and do fundraisers, as well as to just teach people how to use Narcan.
Explain what that is, please.
What Narcan?
Yes, please.
Naloxone is the antidote to an opioid overdose. And there are brand names out there like Narcan, Cloxado, and there's others coming on the market. And so what you do is it's a little nasal spray. Usually you can get it in an EpiPen too, but most people have this nasal spray. And what you do is just, if you see someone who's passed out, they need to be passed out at this point. Their eye pupils are pinpoint, right? The breathing is shallow. You can just assume that they're having an opioid overdose because it won't hurt them if you use it. And you can use it for every age from infancy to as old as you want to be, to pets even. You can put it on their gums if you can't get it in their nose. And you just squirt it in their nose. It's a one-time use thing. Sometimes you need more than one to bring somebody back, depending on how much they've taken. But you squirt it in their nose. You wait a few minutes to see if they're coming around, if they're not breathing, or whatever. You continue to do CPR while you're waiting for the paramedics. But that's what it's for, is the antidote to an opioid overdose.
Well, if a person takes a pill and they realize, holy cow, it is laced with fentanyl, will that help?
No, you cannot Narcan or naloxone yourself. No.
They need to be knocked out.
You need to be with someone if you're using
No,
this.
I mean, if you're with somebody and you realize, holy cow, this has been laced with fentanyl, and they're aware of it.
Yeah, but usually it's pretty much instant that it happens to you.
You mean the fentanyl?
The overdose is pretty instant. Yeah, that you'll pass. Yeah, people have been found with pain, like a pain look on their face, and bent over, still in the position holding the drug. So it's pretty instant. If you're having a slow overdose, because it's a very tiny amount, and it only takes a tiny amount to overdose. It can the amount that can fit on the tip of a sharpened pencil can kill several adults that have no tolerance built up to it. So depending on how much you have taken, if it's a little bit, just enough to really affect you and bring you into what I'm calling a slow overdose, you might notice that your child's acting differently and lethargic and nodding. and can't stay awake, that's the time you want to get them to the ER. If they're unconscious, you use the naloxone.
I've heard of rescue units be impacted by it.
Well, yeah, they actually should be carrying Narcan wherever they go, or naloxone, whatever brand they decide to use. But usually you hear stories of people touching it, and okay, you can't just touch it and pass out. That means either when you opened it, some of the powder may have gotten up your nose. If you have a cut, it may have gotten into your bloodstream, that sort of thing. But usually you have to breathe it in or ingest it in some sort of way.
So how does your organization work with other organizations to try to change laws to stop the spread of illicit fentanyl?
Well, we've done a lot. We've been working on it with our 501c4, which is the Fentanyl Solution Group, a little different name. And we actually have a ballot proposition that we filed last week in Sacramento, which will give a admonition, a warning for people who sell fentanyl. So if you go before the judge, they'll say, hey, you know this can possibly kill someone, right? Well, if you come before my court again and you happen to kill someone the next time around, not the first time they're just selling, but if you kill somebody with this going out, when you get out, we know you know now that this can kill someone. There's no doubt in our minds that you didn't know there was fentanyl in this. You know there's fentanyl in this pill, because they'll say, oh, I didn't know it's fentanyl in it. I got it from somebody else. Well, now you know. So if you come back in this courtroom and we can prove that you killed someone with this, you're going to prison for murder. And we did a poll to see if that's what the people of California wanted, the voters, and they said, yeah, they want something done with fentanyl, and they want to see that people who kill with this, because they can be serial killers, they'll get out and do it again and again. They're drug dealers. That's what they know. They can kill 5 people in one night or more with one batch of pills. The people said they want something done, and they want to see at least 10 years for someone who kills with fentanyl, because it's not like any drug we've ever seen in the history of drugs.
So when will we see that on a ballot?
At the presidential election. As long as we get enough
November
signatures.
next year is what you're saying.
Yep, we have to. The hard part, we're working with a coalition now, so we're part of a team. Now we've developed this coalition, which Mary Bono is on it from Riverside. We have Senator Pat Bates, she's on there as well. And we have a couple other people. Matt Capilouto from Drug-Induced Homicide is leading the effort now. We put him to the forefront. His daughter died from cocaine that was laced with fentanyl. She was doing for a birthday, as I understand the story. And so he's leading that effort now. And part of the admonition was always his Alexander's Law that he's been trying to get put through. So we combined his admonition with the 10 years that the voters asked for in a poll. And we put together a law that if it gets approved and the voters vote on it, then at least we'll have some protections for people who kill with fentanyl.
So are we talking about people who've been in prison and they get out, or are we talking anybody out there who happens to sell these pills that are laced with fentanyl?
Well, they're talking about people who are known drug dealers, people who have done this over and repeatedly, and that sold it, and they know what's in it. They know what's in it. So the hard part has been for the DAs that was proving intent, that they knew that there was fentanyl in the pills.
Now, when it comes to drug dealers, how do we know that someone's dealing drugs?
Well, if they're exchanging money for drugs, if you're just passing pills around as friends, we don't. That's
Is there a
not considered.
demographic for that?
No, there's no demographic.
It could be anybody.
They come in all colors, all races, all sizes. No,
It could be anybody.
it could be literally anybody.
So how can people help your organization get the word out?
Well, it's important that we're always around, so that we can keep educating. So I ask people to come to the website. We have a donation page there. Fentanylsolution.org is our name and our website. And if they can help by donating anything, it helps to keep us around so we can keep talking about this. As long as there's a problem, there needs to be someone who that makes people aware. We're here in Orange County. We're right in Newport Beach, but we are also statewide and starting to branch out nationally. So to do that, we do need a lot of money. The good thing is that we are one of the only organizations in this space that has staff, so we're able to get so much more done more quickly, but it's also very expensive to have staff. So anything helps, and we can always get grants for projects, but it's hard to get grants for operations to keep going and the educational programs that we want to get out.
Are there any misconceptions about fentanyl?
Yeah, people think that only bad people get caught up in this, or bad parents. And that's been the opposite of what I've been finding. It's like the best parents, kids that are sports stars, football stars, A students, the people you don't think would get caught up in this are caught up in this. I've had lawyers that we've saved lives because we were able to give them fentanyl test strips to test pills, and they went to a party. They didn't even want to take the strips from us. They were like, oh, I don't need that. They went to a party, and just for giggles, they decided, oh, there's pills, let's test them and see if there's fentanyl in it, and it came back positive. And so the next event, we saw this attorney, a prominent attorney, he said, you saved my life because there was fentanyl in that. People that are prominent business people that are active in your community here in Orange County, I talk to them and they're like, you mean there could be fentanyl in my Adderall I get from my friend? Yes, there is. So people think because they get it from a friend and it's Adderall and it looks like Adderall, it is, and it's not. It's not. And people don't realize that they're making this in like out in the middle of a field of a farm in a broken down garage, all in Mexico. They can't mix it evenly. You don't know what you're getting. You can get a pill with no fentanyl, a pill with a little bit of fentanyl, a pill full of fentanyl, but likely no medication in it whatsoever, and it'll look just like what you want to buy.
How do they make it?
How do they make it?
Yeah.
I mean, they use raw materials that they get from China, and then they mix them together. I can't tell you what the materials are. I don't even want to know what the materials are, but they do mix it, and a lot of the farmers are dying, but they're forced to do it by the cartel, and that's something they have to do. And then it comes across, of course, the border, and it usually comes across the border by Americans. They won't use immigrants. Cartel's smart enough to know that if they use immigrants, they're likely to get caught, so they use Americans to mule them across.
And there's a lot of money to be made. That's why they do it.
The cartel probably is wealthier than the United States as a government. Yes, I would say they're making really good money. Yes.
Can fentanyl strips be sold at stores? How can you get access to that?
Well,
to test?
we also have those. So if you want to get test strips, we can get you those as well. We're going to soon have our website redone, and you'll be able to get them from there. Just order them. But yes, they are widely available, and the test strips that we use have a QR code on the back. So if you do get a positive hit, you can anonymously scan that QR code and report the zip code, so we can start tracking where there might be problem areas.
And we want to point out what the website is, of course.
Yes, fentanylsolution.org, our name.
What about Narcan?
Okay, Narcan.
Narcan.
Okay, so Narcan is now available at CVS too. And if you have insurance, you can go get it. It's supposed to be free, but we also have it at our offices as well. You can request it through the website if you like.
Are teachers talking about this in their schools and their classes?
Well, the schools are now stocking up on naloxone in the nurse's office, but every teacher should have it in their classroom. You need to do this pretty quickly once someone passes out. I mean, you have 8 minutes to brain death, right? You're not breathing when you're overdose. And the interesting thing about using this naloxone as I call it the Lazarus effect. It's the antidote, but once you put it in someone's nasal passage and revive them, they jump up like nothing happened, and literally they were dead. Pretty much they were gone at that point right before that, and they'll jump up and get on a bicycle and want to take off. But it's best to go to the emergency room, and that's what we advise, because you can have a relapse again.
What kind of after effects can you have from it?
Yeah, well, the after effects for someone who is using, they might get angry with you because they can't get high for another 8 hours. So the receptors in the brain, the opioids sit right on top of the receptors, and the Narcan or the naloxone will come in and block that receptor so the opioid can't get to the receptors, and that'll last for about 8 hours. So unfortunately, someone who has spent their last money, who wanted fentanyl, who literally sought it out, they'll be upset that you just killed their high for the next 8 hours. And the more you use, the longer their withdrawal symptoms will stay.
So you're saying there are people who can be on fentanyl somewhat safely because they're doing it on a regular basis.
Well, they build a tolerance over time, but eventually it's going to get them. Most of the people who I've talked to who chose fentanyl as their drug of choice, they have OD'd several times.
And you're saying it's one of the biggest killers of teens in Orange County. How can that
It
be?
is the number one killer of teens in Orange
How
County.
can that be?
Because are getting it from a friend. If you just want to stay up and study late and you think, oh, I'll get a Xanax or something to help me with that and my anxiety, and your friend says, well, I have a Xanax, you're not going to question necessarily if it's legit or not. You're just going to take it. And we had one teen who was 15 that took only a corner of a Xanax. I mean, a little tiny corner, and that killed him because that's where the fentanyl was, right? So we call it like the chocolate chip cookie effect. You don't know where all the chocolate chips are or if there are any until you bite into it, maybe, right? So that was, I mean, the corner was so small that his mom said to the paramedics, how is this an overdose when this is all he took? And that was all he took.
But didn't the Xanax come from the house?
No, they got it from a drug dealer. And the drug dealers will drive them to your house, by the way, which is very dangerous, but they will take them to your house.
Do the drug dealers deal with the friends' peers to sell?
They will. They don't have any real ethics about it. If they can get you to sell it, they will. That's been the case in several states that they found.
So tell us about some of the staff in your organization.
Sure. My staff, they're so great. And I want to give my team just a shout out because they're amazing. We have three full-time staff members, two contracted staff members. Two of our full-time staff members have lost family members to fentanyl. Gloria, she's lost her brother, and then Shane had lost his dad, and then his brother on the anniversary of his dad's death, both the fentanyl. And he talks about it all the time because his brother was clean for 7 months, and then on the anniversary of his dad's death, his dad died of fentanyl. He wanted to do something just to kill the pain of his father passing, and his friend said, hey, do cocaine, that's not your drug of choice, so if you just do a bump in that, it'll get you over this day. That bump instantly killed him. And he wasn't around his friend. He was home alone.
So how can people help your organization?
Yeah, just come. We need volunteers all the time.
To do what?
For everything from events. We have the event with George Foreman coming up. The one I was talking about on October 7th is with George Foreman. He'll be there, George Foreman 3rd, I should say. 3, not the 3rd, 3, because all of his sons are named George. So George 3. And we're going to be, we have several celebrities coming out to that in Calabasas. So hopefully, we can get volunteers to help with that. Of course, like I mentioned, the donations are definitely a big part of it. We need all kinds of connections to resources as well.
So how did the organization start?
Oh, we just started this year and hit the ground running. Like we started in January, and we got started because one of our donors that I ended up meeting lost several friends to this. And he wanted to do something about it. So he provided the seed money and we got started.
And you figured having it called fentanylsolution.org is because they go right to the website.
And it goes right to the point. And it's also an icebreaker when I wear my badge that says what I do and who I am. At any general business meeting, or I just stand up and introduce myself, I'll get several people come to me who have lost or been affected by fentanyl. And it doesn't have to be a meeting that has anything to do with substance abuse or substances. It could be a Chamber of Commerce meeting.
What's the youngest, I'd say, kid that has been impacted by fentanyl, survived, but nonetheless?
Well, it affects all ages. Purposely taken, I've heard of an 11-year-old just this past week in the Bronx. A 1-year-old passed away at a daycare center. What I heard this morning was that on the news is that the daycare was a front for the fentanyl dealer who was packaging it up in kilos in the back. And it only takes a little bit of fentanyl dust for a baby that size. 3 babies went down at the center. 1 baby could not be revived. Found out there's a 4th baby that went home early that was lethargic. The mom took to the hospital and they were revived with Narcan when he passed out.
Are members of your staff going into schools and talking to children?
Most of our parents, we let the parents do that because their voices resonate very loudly. So the parents that we have on our board that we work with, they do that, and we want to let them do that more. We have an art contest that we are introducing to schools, and we invite people to participate if you're a teacher or a principal. And basically what we're asking is that art programs like graphic arts, drawing, they can do a poster about fentanyl to warn people, and we have different rules and regulations that they can sign up to get, as well as TV production classes or media production classes can do PSAs, and we'll do a film festival for the winners, and then also we will present the awards to the poster contest winners at the local school board meeting.
Sounds like you need to reach people of all ages, not necessarily the
No,
children.
absolutely. We did several white papers. One of our recent white papers is about the senior citizens who are being affected, because yes, it affects senior citizens as well. There's various ways that they overdose from fentanyl. They fall through the cracks because they're not the stereotypical type of person that would be addicted to medication. So doctors don't look for that age group to be a problem. So yeah, they're also being affected. So we have babies, infants that are crawling. There was a baby that died at an Airbnb that their parents rented after a party was there, apparently. And I guess I'm not sure how it happened. I'm just assuming that there was probably fentanyl on the floor or powder. Baby went to sleep and didn't wake up, so she probably put her finger in her mouth or thumb in her mouth. But I'm just speculating, but she would otherwise have to find a pill or something to take. And a lot of times it comes in rainbow colors, so it can look like candy. It can look like candy.
How do seniors get impacted by it?
Well, different ways. A lot of times, as we age, we forget things and we're forgetful, and you can take too much medication. We have medical tourism here in Southern California where seniors will go across the border to get their medications on a bus. And we know that the cartel have infiltrated the brick and mortar pharmacies, so they're likely getting fentanyl, even though they're getting a huge reduction on their medication, like it's usually 80% cheaper. But I think it was the LA Times that broke the story about the brick and mortar pharmacies all up and down the Baja Peninsula. They tested several medications and they came back positive.
So the bottom line is, when you're going to get prescription drugs, where do you get it from?
Your doctor. And if your doctor doesn't want to give it to you, do not go to the black market. You're going to run into trouble there for sure. But if you need medication, that's where you start, and make sure the medicine has your name on it on a bottle. Don't take friends' medicine. Those days are over. Those days, we can't do that anymore.
So when parents talk to their children about drugs, do they need to have a separate discussion about fentanyl?
Well, I won't say necessarily separate. You can do it together. But what I tell parents is that if you know nothing and your child knows nothing, have your child Google fentanyl, fake pills, and have them report back to you what they found, and that'll start the discussion. But always ask them, what do you know about this? And let them start the conversation and tell you. If they know nothing, that's what you can do.
Now, fentanyl in comparison to other kind of drugs, where is this on the deathly scale?
Oh, well, fentanyl is 50 times more potent than heroin, 100 times more potent than morphine. It's difficult to get off of fentanyl once you're addicted to it. You're going to go back and forth probably to the rehab center probably a good 8 times, and that's with you wanting to get off of it. It is a very addictive drug.
Is there a demographic of a person who's typically on it?
Well, right now it's all demographics, but we're finding that the demographic of white women, suburban, it's kind of started with the opioid epidemic. Black men are being found dead more often than not. We don't know why necessarily those two, but we know that there are more males in the teen demographic, but that doesn't mean females aren't dying too. They are.
Thank you, fentanylsolution.org CEO and President Janice M. Celeste, for being on Impact OC. And I thank everyone for tuning in. I'm OC Talk Radio Public Affairs Director Dawn Camber. Have an impactful day.
You've been listening to Impact OC, the only program showcasing the people and organizations shaping our community. Right here on Orange County's only community radio station, OC Talk Radio.